Some nights I tune in and I hear you raking George Bush to the coals. Then I hear you taking on Democrats. What are you?
I'm, as I say in the book, Larry, I am an unaffiliated independent. I've been a lifelong Republican, but I have come to the conclusion after, with mounting evidence seemingly every year for the past 6 to 8 years in particular, that there is no difference in these political parties. Now, there are Democrats and Republicans out there saying, what in the world are you talking about? The fact is that both parties are owned lock, stock, and barrel by corporate America and U.S. multinationals. And if you examine their funding, where they stand with their platforms, where in the United States Congress do you find representation for the middle class today? There are $2.4 billion being spent by corporate America and special interest and social special interest in this country to persuade your lawmakers and mine to vote in whatever way is most amenable to them, but not for you and me.
Remember something, if you will, about voting. Voting is not a horse race. You're not going there, gee, I gotta pick the winner, so I can brag to my friends that, oh, I picked so-and-so and he or she won. Voting is voting your heart and voting your conscience. And when you do that, don't ever, ever let a Democrat or Republican tell you you've wasted your vote. In fact, the fact is, if you don't vote your heart and conscience, then you have wasted your vote. Also, the key to all of this, and I know I have a little bit of experience, the key to all of this is we must open up the debates. Let's go back in history for a moment, if we may. The year was 1992, and there was a little Texan, another little Texan. We got a Texan here today, but we had another Texan then by the name of Ross Perot who ran. Now, Ross Perot got 1 out of 5 votes. He got 19.7% that year. Well, in 1992, all presidential debates were under the National League of Women Voters, which is essentially a fairly neutral group. You have conservative, you have liberal, you have independents. But what happened after 1992? Here's what happened. Perot scared the establishment so badly that our illustrious Congress took the presidential debates away from the National League of Women Voters, and they created another federal bureaucracy called the National Debate Commission, which I might add happens to be run by the former heads of the Democratic and Republican parties. So what happened when 96 came around? Ross Perot had qualified for nearly 30 million of your tax dollars in the 92 race. Yet, Bill Clinton and Bob Dole got together. Bob Dole did not want Perot in the 96 debates because he felt it would erode from his conservative base. So him and Clinton got together and cut a deal. Clinton agreed because Clinton didn't want debates at all. He was so far ahead, all a debate could do was bring him down. So what happened was the two people cut a deal to eliminate Perot from the 96 debates. They took it to the Federal Debate Commission, and of course it was rubber stamped. So we did not hear Ross Perot in 1996, a person that got 1 out of 5 votes. We were not allowed to hear him. A person that qualified for millions of our tax dollars, we were not allowed to hear him. Why? Because 2 people made that decision. Now, I ask you, is that what democracy's supposed to be?
I wanted to draw a picture for listeners out there, a very simple, crude picture that describes effectively the false left-right paradigm. The Republican Party props up the Democratic Party, and the Democratic Party props up the Republican Party. If you had one of the political parties standing on its own, when the wind came along, it would just fall over. When pressure, revolutionary pressure from the population, not liking what's going on, or new groups wanting the power structure, which is the main source of revolution. Most of it is driven by evil, just like the elite is driven by evil. Very rare to have an altruistic revolution. By itself, a single-party system will fall over. Okay? But if you take the two-party systems and you lean them up against each other, this is basically the arch. Their force going together keeps them together and makes it become a very strong, stable platform on which they can build their hierarchical New World Order system. Okay? So the current two-party system has been dominated and bought up and controlled by the elite that sits atop it. Now, the elite with a one-party system would not be balanced on top of one party. They would be subject to being toppled, being pushed over easily. But you put the two parties up against each other, they form a royal arch. And now it's very hard to separate those two because they're leaning up against each other. I mean, this is really simple, but I want to explain this to people. Check it out, folks. Why do you see so many leftists who mean well, like Rage Against the Machine, Tom Morello, or Henry Rollins, who are right on so many issues but then believe in leftist policies? We need a global carbon tax. But there's an elite funding that. No, the elite, the big corporations are against it because the media advertises that big corporations and oil companies are against it. Henry Rollins doesn't know, doesn't have the documents. It doesn't understand that actually that's part of a sophisticated game that, the big corporations say publicly, we don't want this, it's bad, while they actually fund it. They know the public's awake to the fact that they're corrupt, so the public will be fooled and go and support the agenda. It's please don't throw me in the briar patch. It's the old briar rabbit situation. Here's the political field, and this is where the population resides. And then we supposedly, through the grassroots, come up into the political party. Okay? And then they lean on each other, as I was saying earlier, and support each other. If they're standing alone, the pressure of revolution or of new power structures will easily topple it and blow it over. But leaning together, it's not going to fall down. Okay? Now, I know that's simple, but let me give you an everyday example of this. As I said, the left sees all of these evil mainline Republicans who we know are liars and who the media even exposes as being liars. They see them lying about everything else. So if the Republicans come out and say, we're against a global carbon tax, well, then by God, I'm for a global carbon tax. And so that's how the two sides leaning up against each other give the other side support. And so Democrats over here, Republicans over here, Republicans attack Barack Obama. And then the Democrats attack John McCain. And then the population who's down here is trained to see John McCain as representing them personally, as being their daddy, of where their personal power comes from, of their camp, their brand name, their brand of soda, their brand of automobile, Ford or Chevy. And so this is a controlled paradigm. And so we have Republicans attacking Democrats, and that's the force against them. And you have Democrats attacking Republicans, and that's the force against them. And really, it's one unit supporting themselves and containing revolution so that the people who were down here never learned that there is a world outside of this controlled paradigm. We are locked within the left-right paradigm, and then it becomes this huge pageant, this huge distraction where we analyze every facet of the two political parties, never realizing they themselves are simply a front or puppets for a larger power structure. Now, this is incredibly simple, but that's how this works. And then the two parties can limit the issues that are debated to this controlled paradigm. They can limit the scope of differences, which, if you look at it, there's almost no difference between the two, instead of getting the people to look outside the box at the wider world.